Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have DMX. DMX, also known as Earl Simmons, was an American rapper and actor and just absolute legend. In interviews, DMX has shared stories about his belief in the existence of demons and his experiences with the supernatural. DMX has claimed that he was visited by a demon when he was a child and that the experience left him feeling traumatized. He also said that he had encountered demons in his adult life and that he believes in the power of prayer and spiritual protection to ward off their influence. In an interview with the Breakfast Club radio show, DMX spoke about a particularly intense encounter with a demon while he was staying in a hotel room. He described feeling a dark presence in the room and being physically attacked by an invisible force. DMX said that he used prayer and spiritual techniques to banish the demon from the room. DMX's experiences with demons and the paranormal have been a source of fascination for many of his fans, and they have contributed to his reputation as a larger-than-life figure in the music industry that will be remembered for many years to come. Demon X, that's so funny. Aw, R.I.P. In our number 9 spot today, we have Kenneth Anger. Kenneth Anger is an American underground filmmaker and author known for his experimental and surreal films that often explore themes related to occultism, mysticism, and sexuality. Anger has been associated with the occult since the 1940s, and he is considered one of the most influential figures in the American underground film scene. While Anger has never claimed to have had any direct encounters with demons, he has incorporated occult symbolism and rituals into his films and writings. In his book, Hollywood Babylon, Anger details the sordid and often scandalous history of Hollywood, which he believes is linked to the dark forces of the occult. One of Anger's most famous works is the film Invocation of My Demon Brother, which features a soundtrack composed by Mick Jagger and includes footage of various occult rituals, including a black mass. The film has been interpreted by some as a genuine attempt to invoke demonic forces, although Anger himself has denied this interpretation. Despite his reputation as an occultist, Anger has also been a vocal critic of organized religion and has described himself as a follower of the philosophy of Thelema, which was developed by occultist Aleister Crowley. Thelema emphasizes individualism and the pursuit of one's own true will, and it has been embraced by many other artists and thinkers throughout the 20th century. In our number 8 spot today, we have Bob Larson. Bob Larson is an American preacher and radio and television personality and a controversial Christian evangelist who has made a name for himself as an exorcist and paranormal investigator. Larson has claimed that he has personally been possessed by demons on multiple occasions and that he has successfully performed exorcisms on thousands of people. According to Larson, his first encounter with demonic possession occurred when he was a young man living in Denver, Colorado. He claims that he was taken over by a demon and began speaking in tongues and experiencing physical symptoms such as convulsions and blackouts. Larson's claims of demonic possession have been met with skepticism by some who argue that he is exploiting people's fears and insecurities for his own gain. However, Larson has a large following of devoted supporters who believe that his work as an exorcist is a legitimate form of spiritual healing. Regardless of whether or not Larson's claims of possession are true, his work as an exorcist has made him quite a controversial figure in the world of paranormal investigation and a source of fascination for many people. In our number 7 spot today, we have Lorraine Warren. We all know Lorraine Warren, okay? Of course, she was a renowned paranormal investigator and author who, along with her husband, Ed Warren, investigated numerous cases of alleged hauntings and demonic possessions. According to Lorraine, she was herself briefly possessed by a demon during an investigation in 1973. During the investigation, Lorraine reportedly felt a dark presence inside of her and began speaking in an unknown language. She also experienced physical symptoms such as convulsions and difficulty breathing. Lorraine's husband Ed, who was also present, was able to perform a ritual to expel the demon from her body. Lorraine's claims of being possessed have been met with skepticism by some who argue that the Warrens were more interested in promoting their own work than in conducting unbiased investigations. However, Lorraine's reputation as a paranormal investigator has earned her a place in pop culture, and her stories about haunted houses, demonic possessions, and other supernatural phenomena continue to captivate audiences. I mean, the Conjuring series is highly successful, and it's based on the work of the Warrens. In our number 6 spot today, we have Lucy Liu. Actor and artist Lucy Liu, in a 1999 interview with Us Weekly magazine, shared a chilling experience she had with a ghost while staying in a haunted hotel in New Mexico. According to Lucy, she was sleeping in her room when she suddenly woke up in the middle of the night to find a ghostly figure standing at the foot of her bed. The figure was dressed in a cowboy hat and boots and appeared to be a man from the Old West. Lucy said that the ghost spoke to her in a language she couldn't understand and then disappeared. Lucy's encounter with the ghost left her feeling unsettled, and she reportedly slept with the lights on for the rest of her stay at the hotel. Especially after this experience, Lucy has said that she believes in the existence of ghosts and is open to the possibility of the supernatural. In our number 5 spot today, we have Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd is a Canadian actor and comedian who is perhaps best known for his work on Saturday Night Live and in films such as The Blues Brothers and, I don't know, Ghostbusters. Aykroyd has a long-standing interest in the paranormal, which is exactly where his inspirations for the movie came from, and he is claimed to have had multiple ghostly encounters over the years. One of Dan's most famous ghost encounters occurred when he was living in a house in upstate New York that was reportedly haunted by the ghost of a former resident. Aykroyd has claimed that he saw the ghost on multiple occasions and that it even communicated with him through telepathy. Aykroyd's experiences with the ghost in his house reportedly inspired him to write the screenplay for the hit movie Ghostbusters, which centers around a team of paranormal investigators who capture ghosts in New York City. As if you didn't already know that. Aykroyd's interest in the paranormal has continued throughout his life, and he has been involved in numerous investigations and documentaries related to the subject. In our number 4 spot today, we have Anneliese Michel. Anneliese was a German woman who became the subject of a controversial case of alleged demonic possession. Anneliese was born in 1952 and began experiencing seizures and other symptoms of mental illness when she was young. Her family believed that she was possessed by demons and sought the help of Catholic priests to perform exorcisms on her. Over the course of several years, Anneliese underwent a series of exorcisms that were recorded on audio tapes. The tapes of Anneliese's exorcisms are disturbing and very graphic, with her screaming, growling, and speaking in multiple voices. Her physical condition deteriorated over time, and she eventually died of malnutrition and dehydration in 1976. Anneliese's case has been the subject of much debate and a lot of controversy. Some people believe that she was truly possessed by demons, while others argue that she was suffering from mental illness and was not given the proper medical care that she needed. The case has been the subject of books, documentaries, and films, and it continues to be a source of fascination and horror for many people. And many people are at least somewhat familiar with this story since it was the basis for the famous horror movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose. In our number 3 spot today, we have Emma Stone. Emma is an A-list actor who's appeared in numerous films including La La Land, Easy A, and The Amazing Spider-Man. And not only this, but she has also shared a story about a ghostly encounter she had while staying in a hotel in Hawaii. According to Emma, she was staying at a historic hotel on the island of Kauai when she woke up in the middle of the night to find a ghostly figure standing at the foot of her bed. The figure was described as a young girl, and Stone said she felt a sense of calm and warmth in its presence. Stone said that she didn't feel scared or threatened by the ghost, and that the experience actually made her feel more connected to the history and culture of Hawaii. She later learned that the hotel was said to be haunted by the ghost of a young girl who had passed in the building many years ago. Emma's encounter with the ghost has been widely reported in the media, and it has helped to fuel her reputation as a believer in the paranormal. In our number 2 spot today, we have Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers was quite the television personality, known for her sharp wit and humor, as well as her blunt and often controversial opinions. Rivers claimed to have had a ghostly encounter in her New York City apartment that left her feeling shaken up. According to Rivers, she was in her bedroom when she saw the ghost of a woman standing at the end of her bed. The ghost was described as wearing a hat and a fur coat and had a sad expression on her face. Rivers said that the ghost seemed to be trying to communicate with her, but she couldn't understand what it was saying. Rivers claimed that the ghostly encounter left her feeling spooked and that she slept with the lights on for several nights afterward. She later learned that a woman had died in the apartment many years before, and she speculated that the ghost she saw was that woman's spirit. Finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have Matthew McConaughey. I'll be honest, Matthew was someone I didn't expect to put on this list because he didn't strike me as a ghost believer, but I couldn't have been more wrong. Matthew McConaughey is an actor and producer known for his roles in films such as Dallas Buyers Club, True Detective, Interstellar, the list goes on. He is a great actor. In his memoir, Green Lights, McConaughey shares a story about a paranormal experience he had had while living in Hollywood. According to him, he was home alone one night when he heard a sound coming from the hallway. He got up to investigate and saw a ghostly figure walking down the hall towards him. The figure was described as a small girl wearing a pink dress, and McConaughey said that she didn't really seem very threatening, but rather curious. Matthew said that the ghostly encounter left him feeling unnerved, and that he struggled to make sense of what had happened. He later learned that the house he was living in had a history of paranormal activity, and he speculated that the ghost he saw was the spirit of a young girl who had passed in the house many years before. Matthew's story about his ghostly encounter has definitely only added to his reputation as an enigmatic and unpredictable personality. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot we have Ariana Grande. This is a terrifying paranormal encounter had by the super sweet Ariana Grande. Back in the Yours Truly era for the star, while in Kansas City, she and some friends took a visit to Stull Cemetery, which legend claims is one of the gates to hell on earth. This turned out to be a more haunting visit than the group had bargained for, however, as the singer recounted that suddenly they, quote, felt this sick, overwhelming feeling of negativity over the whole car, and we smelled sulfur, which is the sign of a demon, and there was a fly in the car randomly, which is another sign of a demon. I rolled down the window before we left and said, "We apologize, we didn't mean to disrupt your peace." Things only got more spooky for Ari though when she later tried to send her manager a picture of the cemetery. This photo she attempted to send came back with an error saying that the file couldn't be sent due to the fact that it was 666 megabytes. In our number 9 spot today we have Miley Cyrus. In an interview with Elle UK, Miley Cyrus opened up about a haunted apartment that she and her family stayed in during her 2009 European tour. She said, quote, "It was seriously so terrifying. It used to be an old bakery and they turned it into an apartment building, and I was having really crazy dreams and really scary things, and one night my little sister, it sounds crazy to tell you, but she was standing in the shower and all of a sudden I hear her scream. I run in there and the water had somehow flipped to hot, but it wasn't like the water had just changed, the knob had turned, but she hadn't turned it and it was burning her. She was really red." She continued on with the chilling tale by saying, quote, "Before I felt this, I thought I had seen a little boy sitting on the sink watching me take a shower, so I felt really freaked out. I was sitting there the next night, and maybe I'm crazy, but I could have sworn I could see this little boy sitting there on the sink kicking his feet. My mom was getting mad that we were looking into it because she thought it was going to scare Noah, so then my aunt, who we hadn't told about this, comes in and she starts freaking out. She's like, I have no idea what happened, but I left the apartment and I came back and all of the doors and windows were open. I locked the apartment." She finished off her creepy story by saying that there were a few more strange things that happened, and this all was enough for her to swear off ever staying in that place again. Miley believes the haunting ties back into the history of the building and says that the apparition she saw matches up with who once lived there. In our number 8 spot today we have Adele. The haunting story of Adele starts off when she decided that she had had enough of fans and paparazzi outside of her London home, so she decided to purchase and move to a new home in Sussex. This house, in its past life before housing the Grammy Award winner, is said to have been a convent. Despite the change, Adele continued to be visited by people she didn't want in her home, but this time the visitors were otherworldly. The singer claimed that she began to hear noises that she was unable to find the source of. Things in her home also began to fall for seemingly no apparent reason, and apparently these paranormal encounters made Adele so unsettled that she had to hire a bodyguard to stay in her house full time. Hopefully these plaguing hauntings have since stopped, but only Adele knows for sure. In our number 7 spot today we have Ozzy Osbourne. One of the most famous rock stars ever, Ozzy has long been connected to the occult. I mean, Ozzy, Prince of Darkness, didn't just come from nowhere. Aside from the rumors, however, Ozzy has been fairly open about his personal connection to the devil. In a 1984 issue of Hit Parader, Ozzy said, quote, "I really wish I knew why I've done some of the things I've done over the years. Sometimes I think that I'm possessed by some outside spirit. A few years ago, I was convinced of that. I thought I truly was possessed by the devil. I remember sitting through The Exorcist a dozen times, saying to myself, yeah, I can relate to that." He even has expressed confusion over whether or not if he's a medium for some kind of outside source or if something much more sinister is at play. When speaking of actually selling his soul, Ozzy had some less than comforting things to say. He said, quote, "I already have. Well, you sell your soul to the devil when you do something yourself that you shouldn't, and I already have. I've lived my life to the fullest. If there's an afterlife, I've got a good spot in the furnace. You know? In our number 6 spot today we have Post Malone. Good old Posty has probably one of the most famous celebrity haunting stories, and it all started with a visit to ghost hunter Zach Bagans' museum. Within the museum was an old wine box that is said to hold a Dybbuk, which in Jewish mythology is a malicious demon. This box had come to the museum after the previous owner bought it on eBay and had some really horrible things happen to him and his family afterwards. These included reports of him having really horrific nightmares, and this extended to anyone else who touched the box, and sometimes even those who had just been around it. Even worse, his own mother had a serious medical emergency after he had given this box to her. This is all to say the haunted item showed up in the Bagan Museum, and then 2018 rolled around and Post Malone decided to take a haunting tour of the occult collection. During this tour, Post Malone reached out and touched the box, and, well, he has been dealing with the consequences ever since. These are said to include the same horrific nightmares detailed by the box's previous owner. In our number 5 spot today we have Bob Dylan. Not necessarily who I really expected to put on this list, but there was an interesting interview back in 2014 that made many people speculate that the musician might have actually sold his soul. In the interview he was explaining that he owes his years of fame and success to a deal he made. The interviewer asked, "Why are you still out here?" To which Dylan replied, "It goes back to that destiny thing. I made a bargain with it. You know, long time ago, and I'm holding up my end." The interviewer of course had to follow up on that cryptic message, so he said, "What was your bargain?" And he replied, "To get where I am now." The interviewer asked, "Should I ask who you made the bargain with?" And he replied, "With the chief commander." The interviewer clarified, "On this earth?" To which he answered, "In this earth and in a world we can't see." I can totally see why some people decided to draw their own conclusions from this. I mean, it sounds like he's basically speaking in riddles, so while he doesn't outright say that he sold his soul, some believe that this is what he was trying to say in that interview. In our number 4 spot today we have Mike Colter. You might know Mike Colter as he plays Luke Cage in the MCU, but what you might not know about the actor is a very ghostly encounter that he had. Back in 2019, Mike was on Kelly Clarkson's show, and while on the show, he had an eerie tale for the audience when he said, quote, "I'm from the South, and there's a lot of things that happened in the South that don't happen anywhere else." Of course, Kelly inquired further, and that is when the star revealed a reoccurring moment that he claims happened, quote, "night after night." His mother basically explained it to him as a spirit being attracted to his energy. He said, quote, "When I was a kid, I used to have this thing that was sitting on my chest when I would sleep, and it was keeping me from getting up, and I couldn't open my eyes, and I would struggle." I don't know about you guys, but that sounds absolutely horrifying. I know a couple demons that could match up with that. Maybe it's a sleep paralysis demon, who knows. In our number 3 spot today we have Vanessa Hudgens. Just last year, in April of 2022, Vanessa appeared on the Kelly Clarkson show. I guess everyone's just on the Kelly Clarkson show talking about their paranormal experience. And during this appearance, she spoke about having, quote, "a lot of paranormal encounters over the years." She said, quote, "I kind of shut it down for a while because the unknown is scary, but I recently was like, no, this is a gift and something that I have the ability to do, so I'm going to lean into it." Expanding on how she is leaning into these abilities, she explained that she had actually recently completed her first real paranormal investigation. Now we have Ed, Lorraine, and Vanessa. During this investigation, she said she met a very playful ghost at the site of a cemetery. I mean, I guess it's not like a malicious spirit. She said that she was able to speak to this ghost using a spirit box, and that after introducing herself, the ghost replied and repeated the names back to her. Maybe this year we'll see Vanessa diving even further into the paranormal, the occult, and all of these otherworldly beings. In our number 2 spot today we have Courtney Cox. Back in March 2022, former Friends star Courtney Cox shared a harrowing experience she had that led her to go as far as to sell her house. She said, quote, "I didn't believe at first, but I lived in this house in Laurel Canyon, which is in LA, obviously, and it was Gypsy Rose Lee's house and Carole King's. She went on to say, quote, "So Carole King came over to my house and she said that there had been a divorce that was really ugly and that there was a ghost in the house. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But other people would stay there with me, like friends of mine, and they said they felt an encounter with a woman who was sitting on the edge of the bed." Despite these tales from her friends and even doing an actual seance with Carole, Courtney still wasn't really a believer of the supernatural. This all did eventually change, however, and it happened when a UPS worker came to her house. Quote, "I was at the house one day, not being a believer. The doorbell rang. It was a UPS guy or something, and I opened the door and he said, 'Do you know this house is haunted?' And I go, 'Yeah, why? Why do you think that?' And he goes, 'Because there's someone standing behind you.' And I was like, let's sell. She said she quickly put the house up for sale. After that, and that she, quote, couldn't sleep there alone ever again. And finally, in our #1 spot today, we have Cynthia Rowley. So there was a show called Celebrity Ghost Stories, and in an episode, Cynthia Rowley showed up to share her haunting tale. The designer recalled a spooky tale that took place at her estate, which is located in Greenwich, Connecticut. She explained that there was a, quote, ghost-like feeling in the house, which certainly is an eerie feeling, but soon a feeling turned into something a little bit more tangible. Eventually, Cynthia began seeing a sort of apparition in the corner of a room in the home. This apparition appeared as a woman who was wearing a sort of scarf over her face. This is all chilling enough, but things only got worse when Cynthia had to escape a fire in her home. She did, thankfully, and was fine, but then the local fire chief told her something she hadn't previously known. The woman who once owned the home she now lived in was called the, quote, diamond match heiress who was badly burned in a blaze. Seems like Cynthia may have been haunted by the previous owner of the house, and not just in like a tacky decor kind of way, I mean like for real haunted.
Coming in at #10, we have Laura Linney and The Haunting at the Theater. First up at #10, we have movie and theater legend Laura Linney. What I especially love about this story is that it happened at a theater which would be considered a second home to many actors. While she was performing at Broadway's Belasco Theater, Linney claims with absolute certainty, and I quote, "It's absolutely haunted." This is her story and her appearance on The Late Late Show with James Corden. Linney says that she never believed in ghosts until this happened. She'd been told about ghosts in the theater, specifically one chorus girl who mysteriously passed away, and she scoffed, because why would she believe that? But legend says that the ghosts only come out during the final rehearsals of whatever show is being worked on at the time. She swept these tales under the rug, forgot about them, until one day while working on stage, she looked up to the upper balcony. She knew you could only access it from the outside and the doors were locked, but sitting in the front row was a woman in a blue dress with blonde hair. She looked away for a second, only to find the girl had disappeared when she looked back. Of course, that's what ghosts do. Laura Linney then says, and I quote, "I went to the house manager and I said, 'Joe, I think I saw a ghost.' And he went, 'Male or female?' I said, 'Female.' And he went, 'Blue dress, blonde hair?' Ooh, say it with me. Ooh." #9, Matthew McConaughey and Madame Bleu. This next one comes from Academy Award winner Matthew McConaughey. During an interview for his movie Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, McConaughey has the perfect story about a ghost named Madame Bleu. Now, Matthew says that before this, he's not one to say that ghosts are real or aren't real, but when he started feeling this presence of a woman who soon took on the name Madame Bleu, McConaughey stood his ground and said, "You can move around all you want, but I ain't going anywhere." Typical McConaughey. The woman would apparently hang around a certain room in his house, and even if he didn't tell his guests, they would know something was up. Check this clip out.
And for weeks, everyone that came over to the house said the same things. There's someone down in that hall, there's someone down in that. I said, I know. And I'm not one to say I believe or don't believe in ghosts, but people kept coming, I would not tell them.
Matthew goes on to say that eventually she cooled down, and instead of making the room she inhabited unwelcomed, everyone who visited suddenly loved that room. I mean, it is impossible to resist the southern charm. But this story begs the question, do you believe in ghosts? Because it'd be a lot cooler if you did. #8, LaToya Jackson, haunted by Michael? If you're one of the people who believes that Michael Jackson is still alive, then you might not be entirely wrong. He is alive in some ways, according to his sister, LaToya Jackson. LaToya says that she often feels the presence of her brother in their home, describing that, and I quote, "You feel something thick behind you or around you, and you're wondering, you don't see anything, but you feel a presence," she said. unquote. I know what you're thinking, that could be anyone or anything, but the story gets weirder. One of the security guards in the home said that he heard tap dancing in what used to be Michael's old room. According to Toya, Michael used to tap dance for 2 hours every Sunday, but when they went up there, though they still heard tapping, there was no one there. LaToya also notes that the dog barks at the window in Michael's room every single night at the exact same time. Weird. Coming in at number 7, Miley Cyrus and the Haunted Bakery Hotel. While Miley was touring Europe, she'd often need a home base that she could return to, logically. The perfect place was initially an apartment she had in London right across the street from Harrods. But she had to move because it was haunted. It used to be an old bakery, but then she started having these really vivid, crazy nightmares. And you're thinking, stress from the tour? Maybe. Well, one night she heard her sister scream in the shower. The water was suddenly scalding because somehow the nozzle had been flipped to hot, not by Noah. Every now and then though, she'd see at the corner of her eye a little boy sitting on the bathroom counter swinging his feet. Obviously, her mother didn't believe her until her aunt said, and I quote Miley quoting her aunt, "I had no idea what happened, but I left the apartment and I came back and all the doors and windows were open. I locked the apartment." Unquote. It wasn't long until they decided to move, and Miley swears she will never stay there again. Number 6, Demi Lovato and her best friend forever.
And then I saw a little girl in my closet. Just weird, just throwing it out there. I totally believe in ghosts. After that, there's no way I can.
The actress and singer revealed on the Mac at Night radio show in 2011 that she totally believes in ghosts. And with this story, I mean, who can blame her? She even goes ghost hunting and claims that the house in Texas she lived in is haunted by the spirit of a little girl from the 1800s named Emily, who she saw in her closet. But she's not the only one. Her entire family has had experiences that they just can't explain. From people appearing to be in the kitchen, to socks being laid out on the bed, to children running around upstairs, but Demi and her sister were both fast asleep. A bunch of stuff. Then there's this story. Demi's friend Tucker came over to her house, and as they were watching a movie, the laptop in the kitchen turned on and started playing a whole different film. As Tucker was texting a friend, Demi says, and I quote, "Tucker texted a friend saying, 'I think this house is haunted.' A movie just turned on by itself, and there was a glitch in his phone that kept texting him back the word 'definitely' over and over again. That happened about 30 times." Unquote. I'm on boat with this one, you guys. Demi is definitely haunted. That makes sense. And apparently her mom says that her and this little girl named Emily, she used to call her Victoria, they were best friends when they were little. Creepy. I guess that little girl's little forever. Coming in at number 5, Keanu Reeves and the woman with the missing legs. Keanu Reeves is convinced that he saw a ghost when he was a young child after moving to New York City. We all know children have a kind of openness to the ghost world. Why we lose it as adults, who knows? Maybe it's because reality sucks. In an interview with Jimmy Kimmel Live in 2014, Reeves confesses that he saw a ghost. While Reeves was a little kid and in a way thought it was cool and easily accepted it, when he looked over at his nanny and saw her horror-stricken face, it was then that he realized it was real. Nope, Keanu wasn't just a glitch in the Matrix, that was an actual ghost. Number 4, Allison Hannigan and the Friendly Ghost. Next up, we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer alumni, Allison Hannigan, who also is too familiar with the occult. Though she doesn't think the ghost who lives in her home in LA died there, she doesn't mind having him as a roommate. He's nice. A law in LA states that if someone did die in a home, then the real estate agent has to disclose the information. But Hannigan in 2003 said, quote, "He's very friendly," unquote. Even one of her friends once saw him and said, "I don't mean to alarm you, but I just saw a man follow us out of the house." To which Hannigan replied, "Well, at least he's gentlemanly. He let us go first." Allison even spotted him once as a silhouette in the doorway of the bathroom and thought it was her fiance until she looked beside her and saw that her fiance was sleeping. Considering her role in Buffy, it's no surprise that Hannigan would be so accustomed to members of the supernatural, and even wanted to put a chalkboard up so the ghost could write their name down. I wonder if he ever did. Coming in at number 3, we have Megan Fox and Ghosts for Breakfast. So many people speculate, including Megan, that she's actually clairvoyant, which is kind of cool. She strangely predicted events for her friends and stated in an interview with MTV News in 2014 that she does in fact believe in everything, aliens, ghosts, you name it. One story in particular that highlights her belief in spirits while she was staying in a multi-room hotel. She ordered breakfast for 7:30, but at 7, she and her nanny both heard someone come in with a tray and pour coffee. Half hour later, she enters the room at 7:30 and there's not a slice of toast to be found. Right then, the doorbell rings and it's room service with breakfast for the first time. It would have been dismissed as a dream if it was just Megan that heard it, but the fact that the nanny heard it convinced Megan to this day that they must have been visited by a ghost. Number 2, Dan Aykroyd and the Cuddly Ghost. Yes, you got that right. Legendary Ghostbuster and comedian Dan Aykroyd has actually been haunted by ghosts several times. From the typical doors opening and closing by themselves to objects moving around, even his staff experienced ghostly touches when no one was around. But the ghost, or ghosts plural, wanted to get a lot closer to Dan, even crawling into bed with him. The story goes as follows, and I quote, "I was alone in the house and decided to take a nap. I closed the door to the bedroom, but didn't lock it. I woke up in this kind of trance where you don't know whether you're sleeping or not. It's what the abductee feels when he's being taken. I saw the door open and I rolled over and looked at the bed and saw the depression in the mattress, like somebody was getting in there. And I thought, I'm just gonna roll over and snuggle up next to it," unquote. So he basically spooned a ghost. Who are you gonna call, Dan? Who are you gonna call? And lastly, number 1, Ariana Grande and the Gates of Hell. In 2013, Ariana Grande recounts an experience she had when asked during an interview with Complex if she'd ever seen an alien. The answer was no, but she definitely encountered ghosts. While in Kansas City, she visited a haunted castle, excited by the potential thrill of an encounter with a ghost. But right after, she went to Stull Cemetery, one of the most terrifying places in the world. According to Grande, the Pope won't even fly over it, as it's said to be home to one of 7 gates of hell. According to Grande, she said, and I quote, "I felt this sick, overwhelming feeling of negativity over the whole car, and we smelled sulfur, which is the sign of a demon. And there was a fly in the car randomly, which is another sign of a demon. I was like, this is scary, let's leave." I rolled down the window before we left and said, "We apologize, we didn't mean to disrupt your peace." Then I took a picture and there are 3 super distinct faces in the picture. They're faces of textbook demons," unquote. The next day she tried to send the pic to her manager but couldn't send the file due to the fact that the size was 666 megabytes. She deleted the pictures to ward off the evil after feeling a negative presence haunting her in her hotel room.
Number 10, Joe Jonas. Joe Jonas is one of the many Hollywood celebrities who believe in the paranormal. On a late-night talk show, he recounted his experience living in a haunted house with his friends. He stated, "I used to live in a haunted house. Lots of spooky things went down. At night, I'd hear people walking through the house and the lights would go on and off. I believe in ghosts now for sure. I was living with friends and we soon moved out." Joe Jonas luckily didn't suffer any long-term effects of the haunting. He and his friends were able to leave the house without any spirits following them. And thank goodness for that. Otherwise, we may have never gotten the Jonas Brothers back. Number 9, Benedict Cumberbatch. In 2004, Benedict Cumberbatch and 2 of his co-stars, Theo Landy and Denise Black, were driving down a stretch of road famous for kidnappings and robberies. The car that they were driving in got a flat tire, so the trio anxiously unloaded their luggage out of the trunk. In a recount of the ordeal, Cumberbatch tells, "It was cold and it was dark. I felt rotten. We were wary because that's a notoriously dangerous place to drive. Then, poof, the front right tire blows. So we got the spare, but that meant getting all of our luggage out. We were like sitting ducks, adverts for, not prosperity necessarily, but materialism." A group of armed men then appeared and bound Cumberbatch and his friends with their own shoelaces and proceeded to put them into the trunk. The 3 bound actors were terrified for their lives, not knowing whether they would survive this terrifying encounter. After a short amount of time, the kidnappers threw the 3 co-stars out of the car, abandoning them on the side of the road. They were found by 3 local women shortly after. Benedict stated that the next morning he had gained a new appreciation of life. The encounter reminded him to live life to the fullest, because any moment could be your last. Number 8, Zoe Colletti and Lana Condor. While filming their Netflix show in 2022, the 2 co-stars, Zoe Colletti and Lana Condor, experienced shockingly on-theme paranormal activity. While filming scenes in the cemetery, the 2 were equipped with a real ghost tracker, which actually kept going off. Unsurprising that a cemetery would be filled with ghosts, but still, it is a very eerie feeling for most to know that you're surrounded by spirits that you cannot see. Condor stated that she had experienced many run-ins with paranormal phenomena, adding that her relationship with it actually drew her to the role in the Netflix show. But yeah, listen, I'm afraid, please don't, stop doing this, leave me alone, ghosts. But paranormal things do happen to me, and often, unfortunately, Lana told the producers while at dinner. I suppose her experience may have at least helped her get into character though. Sandra Bullock. On July 8, 2004, Sandra Bullock was woken at 5:30 a.m. to the sound of an explosion, followed by a loud banging. Home alone, Sandra was terrified as she saw a man stride past her bedroom door. In a moment of fight or flight, Sandra wisely and swiftly made her way to the closet, where she locked herself and dialed the authorities. The man began to bang on her bedroom door. The police made it to her home quickly and arrested the man. Due to a notepad that was on the intruder's person, police were able to deduce without a doubt that the break-in was in no way a coincidence. The man's notebook was filled with disturbing and obsessive letters directed towards Bullock. One read, "I love you and you are very special to me, and without you in my life there is only misery. I've waited and waited, but you never come." Upon reviewing security footage from Sandra Bullock's home, they saw that the man had been at her house 3 days prior, sneaking and investigating the outside. Number 6. Courteney Cox. Scream star Courteney Cox is as familiar with strange occurrences off-screen as she is on. In March of 2022, Courteney recounted her experiences with a ghost, which led her to sell her house. When Courteney first moved into her house in Laurel Canyon, LA, the previous tenant, Carol King, came over to warn Courteney of the ghost that was living in the house. Courteney brushed off the warning, as though she wasn't convinced that ghosts were real, or that the ghost wouldn't really be a nuisance. However, her friends would all report strange encounters when they stayed over at Courteney's. They felt an encounter with a woman who was sitting on the edge of the bed. Courteney still didn't believe that the house was haunted until a 30-second interaction with a UPS delivery driver. Courteney heard the doorbell ring and opened the door to receive her package. The employer asked her, "Did you know that this house is haunted?" Courteney, confused, replied, "Yes, why?" The UPS driver responded with 7 words that convinced Courteney to list her house that same day. "Because there is someone standing behind you." I would have left with the UPS driver, so, Courteney is still braver than I am. Number 5. Kim Kardashian. In 2016, on October 2nd, Kim Kardashian experienced a terrifying situation. Before leaving for her trip to Paris, Kim recalls having a terrible feeling about going. When her sister had issues with her passport, Kim's feelings only intensified. In Paris, every night before sleeping, Kim prayed that nothing bad would happen to them, and thanked a higher power that nothing had. The night of the kidnapping, Kim had briefly returned to her room alone when she heard footsteps approaching her room. 2 armed men, speaking very little English, came in and began demanding her $4 million ring. The men then bound Kim and began ransacking her room. Kim Kardashian was afraid for her life. She begged for mercy, repeatedly telling them to take whatever, but to please leave her alone. The men eventually left, and Kim Kardashian was left physically unharmed. Kim Kardashian's bodyguard was later fired, as he was on active duty when this encounter took place. Kim has severe trauma from the attack, and has stated in the past that she has very, very little interest in returning to Paris. Octavia Spencer. On an episode of the oh-so-dearly departed Ellen Show, Octavia Spencer recounted her fond experience with a friendly Western ghost. Growing up, Octavia was a big fan of Western films, so when she was searching for a house and found one that had previously belonged to a Western actor, Octavia quickly decided that this house would be hers. Upon the purchase, she began to notice signs of the actor's ghost. She states that the ghost acts as a protector and drives out those who bring a negative energy into the home. If a person leaves her home saying that her house has an odd, creepy, or eerie feeling, Octavia knows that their energy is off. All of her close and most trusted friends describe her home as cozy and welcoming. Octavia attributes this to the ghost being able to sense their energy more effectively than she can. She mentions that her ghost can get a little upset when she's gone for a long time. He may slam windows or turn lights on and off as an effort to express his upset with Octavia. Octavia obviously speaks very fondly of her ghost, but she made it clear that she is not welcoming of just any ghost when she said, "I love my ghost. I just don't want you bringing your ghost to my house. I don't want anybody's ghost thinking they can be friends with my ghost, because my ghost can haunt me, but he doesn't haunt me. We have boundaries." Honestly, I'm with Octavia on this one. I would also welcome a protective ghost who throws sassy little tantrums to live with me. It would remind me of my older brother, only the ghost would be quieter and less dramatic. Number 3. Willow Smith. In 2021, on her mother's talk show, Red Table Talk, Willow Smith reveals the heartbreaking, terrifying tale of her being cyberstalked. Cyberstalking is a little bit more insidious and scary. This guy was doing that to me, and he was actually doing it to me for a couple of years. He basically got my patterns, Willow Smith stated. In December 2020, while on a vacation and absent from her house, the stalker broke into her home. Her mother, Jada Pinkett Smith, located a camp that was set up behind the house, created by the stalker. His intention was to wait for Willow to return home. Jada immediately called the police, and the authorities recommended throwing out the contents of the fridge and cabinets in case the stalker had placed something harmful in the food. Willow Smith decided to take the stalker to court, filing for a restraining order against him. It was discovered that the man had been stalking her online for years. The restraining order was granted, but Willow Smith still has severe trauma from the whole experience. Number 2. Lily Collins. While filming the Netflix movie Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, Lily Collins recalls being visited at 3 a.m. by the ghosts of Ted Bundy's victims, who were trying to make contact with the actress. I started being woken up by flashes of images, like the aftermath of a struggle, she said. I discovered at 3 a.m. is the time when the veil between the realms is the thinnest and one can be visited. Lily Collins also stated that she did not feel fearful of the women. Instead, she felt as though they were supporting her and thanking her for shining a light on their story. I actually met with the person who she was playing in the movie, Elizabeth Klopfer, who shared albums and stories with her. Lily described Elizabeth as being extremely gracious. Number 1. Travis Barker. In 2008, Travis Barker's life was forever changed by a heartbreaking plane crash that took the life of 4 out of 6 passengers, most of which were his closest friends. The plane was a Learjet 60 business jet, piloted by 31-year-old Sarah Lemon, who had previously received several notices of disapproval during her training. During the late-night takeoff, the plane's tire blew, leading to the plane bursting through the fence at the end of the runway. This was followed by the plane sparking and burning, causing a fiery explosion. The 2 pilots' lives were taken, along with Chris Baker and Charles Monroe Still Jr. Travis Barker was able to escape through the plane's emergency exit, but was badly burned on 65% of his body and had to go through 26 surgeries. Travis was unable to board a plane for over a decade due to the PTSD from the incident. Since 2021, he has been on over 30 flights due to the support of his then-girlfriend, Kourtney Kardashian.
Number 9. Giuseppe Tartini. An Italian violinist claimed the devil appeared to him in a dream and played for him the most incredible piece of music he had ever heard. Here is how he described the experience. One night in the year 1713, I dreamed I had made a pact with the devil for my soul. Everything went as I wished, my new servant anticipated my every desire. Among other things, I gave him my violin to see if he could play. How great was my astonishment on hearing a sonata so wonderful and so beautiful, played with such great art and intelligence as I had never even conceived in my boldest flights of fantasy. Upon waking, Giuseppe tried to recreate it, and that became his magnum opus, known as the Devil's Trill Sonata. Number 8. Led Zeppelin. The rock and roll genre has long been rumored to be under demonic influence, so it's no shock that one of the most successful rock bands in history has been rumored to make deals with the devil. Guitarist Jimmy Page, known as one of the greatest guitarists of all time, stated, "My interest in the occult started when I was 15. I do not worship the devil, but magic does intrigue me, magic of all kinds." Though Jimmy denies any demonic involvement of his own, he seems to believe that Zeppelin frontman Robert Plant was visited by a possibly satanic power when he created their beloved track Stairway to Heaven. In an interview, Jimmy said, "Robert was sitting in the corner, or rather leaning against the wall. As I was routining the rest of the band with this idea and this piece, he was just writing. And all of a sudden he got up and started singing, along with another run through, and he must have had 80% of the words there." Robert corroborated Jimmy's account. "My hand was writing out words, 'There's a lady is sure, all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven.' I just sat there and looked at them and almost leapt out of my seat." Now, maybe the fact that Robert didn't actually write the words to Stairway explains why fans have discovered satanic messages when playing the album backwards. For example, "Oh, here's to my sweet Satan, the one whose little path made me sad, whose power is Satan. He'll give those with him 666, and all those fools who made us suffer, sad Satan." Now, can you accidentally make a deal with the devil? Because it seems like they might have. Number 7.
1. Johann Georg Faust. This 16th century German astrologer and alchemist was an intelligent and successful man, but this wasn't enough for him. He wanted supreme power and knowledge and called upon the devil to provide him with it in return for his soul. For 16 years he enjoyed his newfound power before he attempted to back out of the agreement. However, the devil convinced him to renew the pact, knowing that upon his death, Johann's soul would reside for eternity in hell. After 24 long years, the devil announced to Johann that his death was approaching. A huge explosion was heard from Johann's room that night, which was believed to be the act of Satan reclaiming his soul. The only thing remaining from the eruption was bits and pieces of Johann's body, and that's why you don't make a deal with the devil, kids. Number 6. Jack Parsons. Jack Parsons was born just a few years after the Wright brothers flew the first airplane, and he grew up reading sci-fi stories about rocket ships taking people to space. He then tried to summon the devil when he was just 13 years old because he planned to sell his soul in exchange for a real-life rocket ship. Kids, am I right? Now, it didn't actually work, of course, but he continued to study science as he grew older and tried to create a rocket engine that was powerful enough to go through Earth's atmosphere. In his 20s, he got involved with Aleister Crowley and his occult teachings, which some people consider to be satanic. Jack attempted a huge spell called the Babylon Working, where he tried to summon a goddess named Babylon that would help men get to the moon someday. Now, technically, it worked. He succeeded in inventing jet fuel that's used by NASA today. So did he actually sell his soul to the devil when he offered it up at 13? And that is the actual reason why he succeeded and changed life as we know it? Well, that all depends on what you believe. Number 5. Ozzy Osbourne. Black Sabbath frontman Ozzy Osbourne is so notorious for his connections to the occult that his nickname, Ozzy Prince of Darkness, was even made the name of his solo studio album. His personal connection to the devil is well documented, as he has been open about it throughout his career. In a 1984 issue of Hit Parader, Ozzy said, "I really wish I knew why I've done some of the things I've done over the years. Sometimes I think I've been possessed by some outside spirit. A few years ago, I was convinced of that. I thought I truly was possessed by the devil. I remember sitting through The Exorcist a dozen of times, saying to myself, yeah, I can relate to that." In another issue, he stated, "I don't know if I'm a medium for some outside source. Whatever it is, frankly, I hope it's not what I think, Satan." Now, he also practically admitted that he made a deal himself, saying, "I already have. Well, you sell your soul to the devil when you do something yourself that you shouldn't, and I already have. I've effing lived my life to the fullest. If there's an afterlife, I've got a good effing spot in the furnace, you know?" Number 4. Johann Christoph Hasemann. Born in 1651 or 52, Johann Christoph Hasemann was a painter who allegedly sold his soul to the devil after the death of one of his parents. In exchange for relief from poverty and depression, Johann agreed to be the earthly son of the devil for 9 years. Afterwards, his body and soul would pass into the devil's hands. Johann claimed that he signed 2 documents confirming the pact, one penned with ink and the other in his own blood. As the due date approached, the painter grew worried. In 1677, he sought help from a Catholic priest who performed an exorcism on the young man. The ritual soothed his troubled mind as he had a vision in which he successfully retrieved the pact penned in blood. Soon after, Johann sought to annul the ink-written contract. He secured a second exorcism in 1678, which succeeded in calming his nerves again. He continued to paint after the exorcisms, creating several pieces that depicted his encounters with the devil. Such works illustrated in his journals described his visions. Toward the end of his life, Johann joined the Brothers Hospitallers of St. John of God. He died in 1700. It's said that he was frequently visited by the devil and other demonic beings who tried to tempt him away from his newfound life of devotion. Number 3. Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa. In the 1500s, Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa was a scholar who devoted his life to writing about the occult. In his books, he mentioned the devil a lot and breaks down exactly how witches perform magic spells. You may be wondering how exactly he got all this information. Well, he claimed when he was a young man, he gave in to the temptations of the devil and learned how to perform magic by following around groups of witches. Then he apparently found Jesus and managed to save his own soul. He wrote his books in order to teach others to keep the devil at bay. During his lifetime, he published 8 huge books about the occult. Even though he was so public about being friends with the devil, he was never put to death for witchcraft, perhaps Perhaps he was seen as publishing such valuable information on how to battle the devil, so they just wanted to keep him alive to learn more. While it would seem that he would have been promoting witch hunts in the church, he actually pushed for people to be more sympathetic and understanding. He wanted to help save them from the devil's grasp and have God save them through prayer rather than burning them at the stake. Number 2. Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson was an American blues musician from the early 20th century who, as legend has it, acquired his musical prowess from a midnight deal with the devil. Born in 1911, Robert grew up alongside the Mississippi Delta. As a young man, he yearned for musical greatness, and one night he took his guitar to the crossroads in hopes of conjuring dark forces. The devil appeared and took Robert's guitar, played a few songs, and then handed it back, granting the young musician complete mastery of the instrument. The story thus explained Robert's extraordinary skill. It also led to rumors that Robert's drooping eye spoke of an infernal connection, and that he turned away from his audience while performing to hide the presence of evil. Now, Robert did little to discourage these stories. If anything, he played into it with the lyrics such as, "Early this morning you knocked upon my door, and I said, 'Hello Satan, I believe it's time to go.'" In 1938, he died under mysterious circumstances at the age of 27. Some say he succumbed to syphilis, others poisoning, whereas others contend it was the devil himself collecting his due. And coming in at number 1 is Bob Dylan. In a 2004 interview, famed musician Bob Dylan cryptically explained that he owes his success to a years-old deal. When asked a rather uninteresting question of why he continued to play shows despite his massive riches and fame, he explained that he made a deal to get where I am now, and that he is a grateful man who is true to his word. Bob's response was typically surreal, as he said, "It all goes back to the destiny thing. I made a bargain with it a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end." He was then promptly asked who he made the deal with, to which he gave a weary smile, laughed, and said, "With the chief commander of this earth and the world we can't see." Instead of taking his comments as a bit of fun or following the inference that he made a deal with God, many people believe he actually made a deal with the devil in order to become famous. These people claim that God nor Jesus make bargains, therefore the only culprit has to be the devil. In the same interview, he said, "Those early songs are almost magically written." Not to mention, in his song titled Crossroads, Bob Dylan tells the story of being at a crossroads with his soul. He falls to his knees and pleads to the Lord to help save his soul. From the lyrics, it would seem like he's referring to God, but the very last line says, "And I'm standing at the crossroads, believe I'm sinking down." Most people believe that this crossroads that's being referred to is the same place that Robert Johnson once reportedly knelt down to offer his soul to the devil in exchange for the success in his music career.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Elvis Presley. There have been rumors and conspiracy theories surrounding Elvis Presley's success and his alleged deal with the devil to achieve fame and fortune. Some fans and theorists believe that Presley's success was not solely due to his musical talent, but rather his involvement in the occult and the supernatural. One of the most prevalent rumors surrounding Presley's alleged deal with the devil is the fact that he was born a twin, but his brother Jesse Garon was stillborn. According to the rumor, Presley made a pact with the devil to trade his twin brother's life for his own success. I personally think that that is a particularly cruel rumor and conspiracy, and am much more on the side of those who believe that Presley's interest in mysticism and the occult was evidence of his involvement in dark practices. Some point to his love for black magic and spiritualism as proof that he made a deal with the devil. Despite the persistent rumors, there is no concrete evidence that Elvis Presley ever sold his soul or made a deal with the devil. These rumors are likely just a product of his enduring fame and the allure of the supernatural. In our number 9 spot today, we have Justin Bieber. I'll be honest, I am a believer, so it was news to me when I found out that some people think he too has sold his soul. Some have pointed to his music videos and lyrics, as well as his public behavior and controversial actions as evidence of his supposed pact with the devil. People believe that Bieber's meteoric rise to fame and success at a young age was too sudden to be natural, and that he must have made a deal with the devil to achieve it, while others point to his lyrics, music videos, and imagery, which they believe contain hidden symbols and messages associated with the occult. Many of these claims are most likely the result of speculation, rumors, and conspiracy theories fueled by Bieber's controversial personal life and the internet's tendency to spread sensationalized stories, but hey, who am I to say for sure? In our number 8 spot today, we have Elizabeth Bathory. Elizabeth was a Hungarian noblewoman who lived from August of 1560 to August of 1614. She was born into one of the oldest and most powerful families in Transylvania, and she was well educated and ran various estates and bore many children. Oh, and this is all happening while she is also killing young women and bathing in their blood. Yeah, weird and gross, and also terrible. Elizabeth is known for killing her servants and bathing in their blood as she believed it would keep her young. Not only this, but she is also said to have made a deal with the devil in order to gain this sort of power. All accounts of Elizabeth remember her as a terrible, evil person. It is said that her number of victims most likely ranges somewhere from 175 to 200, but some people claim that it might be as many as 600. It is no wonder she is referred to as Countess Dracula. In our number 7 spot today, we have Madonna. Madonna has been accused of making a deal with the devil for her success and longevity in the music industry. The rumors have persisted over the years due to her use of provocative and controversial imagery in her performances, as well as her supposed connections to secret societies and the occult. Some people believe that her massive success in the music industry and her often controversial behavior are all signs that she made a deal with the devil. Others point to her use of religious imagery in her music and performances, which they believe is a deliberate attempt to subvert traditional religious values. Some people just can't get over that the girl wants to have fun, and she's been having fun in the public eye for decades now. I get it, Madonna gets a little carried away from time to time, but that doesn't mean the woman sold her soul. Or does it? In our number 6 spot today, we have Johann Faust. According to the stories passed down about this man, it is said that he was an alchemist and astrologer who lived in Germany during the early 1500s. It is said that in his plight to become the smartest man in the world, while also enjoying as many earthly pleasures as possible, he summoned the help of a demon named Mephistopheles. There are terrible stories about how cruel and truly evil this man was, and as a professor, it is said that he looked down on everyone else. Local priests apparently believed that he had actually made a deal with the devil in which he sold his soul to him, and there are also stories that say his pet dog was actually a demon who was able to shapeshift. During his life, he did publish several grimoires, and in 1540, while conducting some sort of alchemic experiment, his laboratory exploded. Just thought that was a fun little anecdote to share with you guys. In our number 5 spot today, we have Michael Jackson. Definitely one of the celebrities who has had the most connections to the occult. Some fans and theorists believe that Jackson's success, talent, and enduring popularity could not be attributed solely to his hard work and dedication, but rather to a supernatural pact that he had made. One of the most persistent rumors surrounding Jackson's supposed deal with the devil was that he made the pact at the age of 12. According to this rumor, Jackson traded his soul to achieve success in the music industry. Others have pointed to Jackson's fascination with the occult and his interest in spiritual practices as evidence of his involvement in the dark arts. Some also cite his dramatic physical transformations as proof of his alleged deal with the devil. At the end of the day, did Michael Jackson have a deal with the devil? Well, I guess I'll just let you decide for yourself. It's my way of saying no, none of these people did, because the devil doesn't exist. In our number 4 spot today, we have Aleister Crowley. This man is quite well known for being the leader of an occult group, and this really does stem back even into his childhood. It is said that quite early on, Aleister started calling himself the Beast and the Antichrist, and he is even quoted as saying that God and Satan fought over his soul. In one of his books, he wrote, quote, "I was in the death struggle with self. God and Satan fought for my soul those 3 long hours. God conquered. Now, I have only one doubt left. Which of the twain was God?" Many people believe that perhaps he made a deal with Satan, but it is possible that these are just rumblings based on Aleister's teachings and beliefs. In our number 3 spot today, we have Beyonce. Queen Bee, an absolute living legend. Like her husband though, who we spoke about on part 1, Beyonce has also been accused of being a member of the Illuminati and selling her soul for fame and fortune. The claim that Beyonce sold her soul is a conspiracy theory that has been circulating online for several years. However, there is no evidence to support this claim. Just don't want the bee people to come for me. The belief that Beyonce sold her soul likely stems from her success, which some people may find hard to believe without a supernatural explanation. I do understand that one. I mean, did you see Homecoming? Additionally, her music and performances often incorporate religious and spiritual imagery, which may further fuel the rumors. Also forgot to include that people think she's a part of the Illuminati. Okay, that's important. People think that she is directly related to a satanic organization. The success of talented and hardworking individuals like Beyonce is typically the result of dedication, perseverance, and talent, but some people just swear it's soul selling. In our number 2 spot today, we have Theophilus of Adana. For this one, we are taking it back a little bit, all the way to 538 AD. Theophilus of Adana was a cleric in the Roman Catholic Church. So basically, one day he was elected to become the new bishop, but he ended up denying the offer, as it is said that he wanted a more priestly sort of position, instead of one with all of that power and responsibility. It is said that he wanted the position of archdeacon, which would have seen him controlling where the donation money went. So apparently, in passing on this bishop position, he thought that if he gave this bishop position to his rival, then his rival should at least be grateful enough to give him the position he wanted. But of course, this did not happen. The new bishop gave away the seat that Theophilus wanted and instead gave him the position of being a humble cleric. This made Theo super angry, and this is when he thought that maybe the church isn't as holy as he once thought they were. This is when he decided to summon the help of Satan. He ended up signing a contract with Satan in his own blood. He denounced Jesus and the Virgin Mary, and it is said that with the help of Satan, he was once again voted into the bishop position, and this time he accepted. At this point in time, it is said that he felt so guilty he confessed to this deal with the devil, and the priest who he confessed to decided that they should burn the blood-signed contract. For a second, Theo looked up, but then suddenly he collapsed and died. Many people believe that it was because he had broken his contract. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have Jonathan Moulton. Jonathan is a man who was born in 1726, and he was known for his military career. He served in King George's War as well as in the French and Indian Wars, but after his service is where the story really starts. Basically, after his time fighting was over, he went on to become one of New England's wealthiest men. This caused heads to swivel and rumors to swirl because this wasn't something that was normally seen. This all gave way for the rumor that Jonathan had struck his luck of fortune because he was actually working with the devil. People began to say that for financial gain, he in turn gave his eternal devotion and even his soul over to the devil. The devil would visit him every month in order to fill up his boot with gold. You know what happens with things like this, though, people get greedy. It is said that despite this lavish lifestyle he was already living, he wanted more, and this led to him making the mistake of trying to trick the devil. He cut a hole in the floor above his basement and placed a boot over it, which also had a hole in the heel. Of course, he did this so that when the devil came with the gold, he'd get a whole basement full rather than just a boot. But the devil certainly caught on. From there, it is said that he burned down Jonathan's house along with all of the gold that lay inside.